Ring of terror. A seemingly normal night. Rain lashed against the windows, wind howled like a banshee. Inside his cozy apartment, John felt safe, engrossed in a thriller. His phone, resting on the coffee table, buzzed. Unknown number. He almost always ignored such calls. But tonight something felt different. A strange compulsion to answer tightened its grip on him. He picked up the phone. Silence. "Hello?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The only response was the static crackle of an empty line. He hung up, a shiver running down his spine. He tried to shake off the uneasy feeling, returning to his book. Minutes later, the phone rang again. Same unknown number, this time curiosity battled with fear. He hesitantly answered. A raspy voice, barely audible, sent chills down his spine. "You shouldn't have answered," it whispered before the line went dead. John's heart pounded in his chest. He tried to rationalize. A prank, a wrong number? But deep down a seed of dread began to sprout. Whispers in the static, unsettling calls begin. The unsettling calls became a nightly torment. Each night the mysterious caller would whisper cryptic threats, their voice growing stronger, more menacing. John's attempts to trace the calls proved futile. The police were skeptical, attributing the incidents to a harmless prankster, but John knew better. This was no joke. His once peaceful apartment now felt like a prison. The ringing phone a constant reminder of the unseen terror that haunted him. Sleep became a distant memory. He was trapped in a waking nightmare, the boundary between reality and terror blurring with each terrifying call. The voice on the other end seemed to know his every move, whispering his name in the dead of night, mocking his fear. John felt a cold dread creep into his bones. He was alone, hunted by an unseen entity, his sanctuary violated by an unknown evil. Unknown caller. The calls escalate. The calls took a sinister turn. No longer content with whispers, the voice began describing John's apartment in chilling detail, mentioning objects he hadn't told anyone about. It spoke of his deepest fears, his darkest secrets, as if peering into his very soul. John felt a cold sweat prickling his skin. His apartment, once his haven, now felt like a cage, every corner shadowed by the unseen presence. He was living in a waking nightmare, the line between reality and terror blurring with each horrifying call. His attempts to seek help were met with skepticism and disbelief. Friends dismissed his concerns as paranoia. The police, burdened by more tangible crimes, offered little comfort. John was alone, grappling with a terror that seemed to seep from the very fabric of his reality. The phone became his tormentor and his only lifeline. It rang incessantly, the unknown caller's voice a constant threat. Then the supernatural intrusions escalated. His television flickered, displaying distorted images of himself trapped, pleading for help. His computer, once a tool for work and connection, became a source of dread as cryptic messages, echoing the caller's threats, flashed across his screen. The digital world, once a source of comfort and escape, had transformed into a hunting ground for the unseen entity. John felt a sense of overwhelming dread. He was being stalked, not just through the phone lines, but through the very technology he relied on. He was trapped in a digital nightmare, the lines between the virtual and the real blurring into a terrifying, inescapable reality. Sleep offered no escape. Each time he closed his eyes, the caller's voice echoed in his head, weaving nightmares of unimaginable horror. John was living on the edge of sanity, haunted by the relentless ringing, the chilling whispers, the growing certainty that something evil had latched onto him, something that existed beyond the realm of the physical. He was a prisoner in his own home, his every move watched, his every fear amplified by the technology that surrounded him. His phone, once a tool of connection, was now a weapon wielded by an unseen force that seemed to revel in his terror. He tried everything to sever the connection, destroying his phone, disconnecting his internet, even resorting to a burner phone. But the calls always found him, the voice as relentless as his growing despair. He was tethered to the entity, bound by an invisible thread of fear and dread. His sanctuary had become his prison, his life a terrifying countdown to an unknown fate. Driven to the brink, John smashed his phone, the remnants scattering across the floor. Silence. Finally, blessed silence. He collapsed onto the couch, a glimmer of hope flickering in the darkness. But as he looked up at the television, his blood ran cold. The screen flickered to life, displaying a single, horrifying image. His own face, eyes wide with terror, mouth contorted in a silent scream. Then, A distorted voice, his voice filled the room. "You can't escape me," it rasped, the sound distorted, inhuman. "I'm not on the phone, John. I'm not in the wires. I'm everywhere. I'm fear itself." The screen went dark, leaving John in the cold grip of a terrifying realization. The nightmare wasn't ending, it was just beginning.
Please like, share, and hit the subscribe button to get updated.